When the Cleveland Cavaliers sent Kyrie Irving to the Boston Celtics in the summer of 2017, one of the assets that they received in return was a first-round pick from Boston by way of the Brooklyn Nets. An unprotected first-rounder at that. And with Cleveland setting its sights on yet another finals run with LeBron at the helm, moving that selection in an effort to bolster the roster around the King wasn't exactly out of the question, especially considering that the team was operating under the assumption that the 2017-18 season could very well be LeBron's final campaign in Cleveland. Thankfully, the Cavs learned a little something from James' final go-around in Miami and didn't. Of course, I'm referring to Miami's drafting of Shabazz Napier, which was done in hopes of appeasing LBJ after he made his affinity for Napier well known. However, that was done using the 24th pick. The Cavs were in a much more enviable position, as lucky for them, the Nets would go on to finish the 2017-18 season with a record of 28-54. Bad enough to land a pick in lottery territory. And when the dust around the NBA draft lottery settled, the selection turned into the 8th overall pick, giving Cleveland an opportunity to add a top 10 talent to its roster amid the uncertainty that was LeBron James' future with the franchise. They would use that pick on an explosive scoring guard out of Alabama, Collin Sexton.
With the 8th pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Collin Sexton from the University of Alabama.
Avery Johnson all smiles as his star guard goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Collin Sexton had one sensational season at Alabama. Helped the Crimson Tide win his first NCAA tournament game since 2006. He is extraordinarily tough and competitive, and he's the guy who raised the energy every time he stepped on the floor, and now he'll have to take that type of energy to the Cavaliers.
Sexton, affectionately referred to as Young Bull for his fearless attacking playstyle, became somewhat of a household name after his legendary performance against Minnesota, in which he scored 40 points despite his team only having 3 available players for much of the second half. He was on the map prior to that outing, but he became a near lock for the lottery after. He would go on to put up averages of 19.2 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 3.6 assists, with shooting splits of 44.7, 33.6, and 77.8 in his lone season at Alabama. Upon being selected by Cleveland, Sexton made it well known that he was eager to play alongside LeBron and asked him to stay.
LeBron James to stay in Cleveland with you.
Man, LeBron, let's do it. Let's do it. I see you need a few pieces, that one extra piece this past season. Hey, let's do it. Let's go back to the finals. Let's do it.
All right, LeBron, the young bull has called you out. He wants you to stay with him in Cleveland. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We all know what happened next. James bolted for the bright lights of Los Angeles in free agency, which left the Cavs in a rebuilding state for the second time in 8 seasons. The roster, which featured several remnants of Cleveland's championship team, was about to be completely overhauled and torn down to the studs. There were no shortage of storylines. J.R. Smith was sent home after some comments he made in an article by The Athletic. He would later be waived. Head coach Ty Lue would be fired just 6 games into the season after starting 0-6 and refusing to sit veterans in place of younger players. Kevin Love missed a ton of time after having surgery to repair a toe after signing a massive extension to remain in town the prior offseason. The 2018-19 season was a struggle for the Cavaliers, but Collin Sexton definitely gave fans something to look forward to. It started in the 2018 Summer League as the Alabama product would wow with his ability to get to the rim and draw contact.
It was 114 out there.
How about this finish
body
by
control?
Sexton?
Look at that. Takes the bump, body control, and hey, just
Knock down the 3-ball.
He's got 31. Sexton, yes!
Oh, nice shot.
And find the open man with timely, precise passes.
Sexton finds the open man. John Holland having himself a nice.
He knows your playbook and his own. Sexton with the dime. White with a strong.
In addition to that, he unleashed step-back jumpers on his opponents and was a killer in transition, using his body to protect the ball while finishing with his left or right hand. The young Bull's best performance may have been in the Summer League semifinals. He would go on to average 19.6 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 3.4 assists in 28.7 minutes, and was named to the MGM Resorts NBA Summer League first team as a result. He would carry that strong play into the preseason, where he put up 9.8 points and shot 57.1% from 3-point distance. The mid-range jumper looked live, the playmaking was real, especially when operating in the confines of the pick and roll, and the three-point shot continued to look legit, despite Sexton only really knocking down 33.6% of them at Alabama. Yet despite his impressive performance up to that point, he would find himself coming off the bench to begin his NBA career after Ty Lue named George Hill, yes, that same George Hill, the starter at point, a move that probably aided in Lue's quick removal that season. But that was okay. Sexton needed time to adapt to the speed and intensity of the game as he tried to translate his natural abilities as a scorer to the NBA level. This much was clear as soon as his first career appearance, a loss to the Toronto Raptors, in which he looked as if he was trying to calibrate his shot and pace in an effort to beat NBA caliber defenders off the dribble. But even with that being the case, you could clearly see the intangibles that he was bringing to the table. The speed, the attacking mindset, the confidence in oneself, they were all present. Within his first 2 career possessions, Sexton brought the ball up the court in a hurry with Fred VanVleet draped all over him, drove inside, and found Kevin Love in the right corner for a fairly makeable triple. Now while Love would miss the shot, he would grab the offensive board and find Sexton out on the perimeter, who drove inside and earned his very first free throw attempts, of which he made. He didn't even hesitate to put pressure on the defense with a well-timed dribble drive, and although he would finish with 0 assists, he made several quality passes to teammates which should have probably resulted in makes. He appeared locked in defensively as he could be seen picking Fred VanVleet up full court often throughout. Overall, his debut was a lackluster affair to say the least, as he would finish with 9 points and 3 rebounds while completing just 2 of his 7 field goals, including 5 of 5 from the charity stripe. He also turned the ball over 4 times. But with that being the case, he still displayed just enough to give the Cavs a taste of what he offered. Sexton will go on to come off the bench for the following 9 contests as he continued to adjust to the rigors of the NBA, giving the Cavs up and down performances and looking like a rookie in the process. Across those first 10 games of his career, he would contribute 10.9 points per game, a number that ranked 8th among rookies during that stretch, to go along with 2.3 rebounds and 2.1 assists, while shooting 42% from the field, including just 33.3% from three-point distance. It was far from perfect, as he would fail to score in double digits in 4 out of those 10 games, but it was a promising start to say the least. Yet despite that promising start, Sexton had to endure criticism from his own teammates, as it was reported by The Athletic's Joe Varden, as well as Cleveland.com's Chris Fedor, that multiple veterans on the team felt as if Colin, quote, didn't know how to play. Varden's piece would go on to detail the following. In on the record commentary, time and again, veterans like Tristan Thompson have made clear that there is a divide between the Cavs' holdover vets from the LeBron glory years like him, Smith, Fry, and Korver. Tristan didn't mention Love, who's gone from the team after foot surgery, and the team's mostly unnamed younger players. It's becoming increasingly clear that when you hear a Cavs veteran talk about younger players not knowing their role, or knowing how to win, or what to do on the court, they mean Sexton. Throughout the organization, the line on Sexton is that he does not know how to play. He does not know how to defend the pick and roll. He does not know how to set up teammates as a point guard. They know he's 19 and he only played 1 year of college ball. They still think he's a nice kid, but they see his deficiencies. They know he's going to be on the court, and they're discouraged when after these losses, he doesn't seem bothered by them. End quote. It was even reported around this time that during a game against the Charlotte Hornets, George Hill told Sexton that he'd teach him how to play defense. It was also said that the locker room didn't think Sexton would listen, and they didn't like that he didn't seem bothered after bad losses or his struggles. It just seemed as if things were heading downhill and fast. That said, it wouldn't be long before he got his first real opportunity to claim the starting role at point guard. That opportunity would come in the form of a George Hill injury. George Hill, who had been averaging just 12.6 points and 3 assists up to that point for the 1-10 Cavs, suffered a sprained shoulder that would keep him out of the lineup for the next 11 games. That injury opened the door up for Colin to establish himself as the starter at lead guard, a role that he wouldn't relinquish. During that 11-game stretch, the dynamic guard would thrive, putting up averages of 18.5 points, 4.4 boards, and 2.9 assists, while completing 46% of his field goals, including a scorching 45.8% of his triples. His performance in a win against the Houston Rockets stands out in particular as he hurt the Rockets time and time again in transition and with his pull-up jumper. He just looked a lot more comfortable in this starting role than he did coming off the bench. And while the team as a whole would go a measly 3-8 in the midst of that, it was clear that Sexton was the best option moving forward and had earned the role through his play. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. For every big scoring affair Sexton put on tape, there were equally frustrating low efficiency, low scoring affairs being had as well. It was uncanny. There were nights when he looked like one of the brightest young stars in the game, dazzling with his relentless attacking playstyle in the open court, and others where he looks completely lost, out of his depth as the lead guard on a rebuilding team. Offensively, he was still chucking up mid-range shots more than any other look, and that killed possessions at times. Defensively, he was still learning how to defend the pick and roll, as he had a tendency to lock onto one guy instead of paying attention to the whole floor. In the month of December, Sexton will put together a mixed bag of performances on his way to averages of 14.8 points, 2.6 rebounds, and 2.9 assists. He wasn't shooting the ball particularly well, as he was knocking down just 40.2% of his attempts, including an absolutely dreadful 31.6% from range. He managed to hit the 20-point mark just 3 times the entire month, while also scoring in single digits on 3 separate occasions. It was very inconsistent production, to say the least, but it was through performances like his 29.6 assist detonation against the Bradley Beal-led Washington Wizards that led many to see the immense potential he had as a combo guard. He had shown that although his primary skill set revolved heavily around scoring the ball, he could also beat you with his vision as well, handing out several well-timed passes that led to baskets.
Hustle, folks, that's all it is. I want the ball more than you.
Crowd hustling, appreciating. And Tristan Thompson finished it off. Adorensky couldn't stay in front of Sexton. West goes loose inside and a pound. Shaking the building, Larry Nance Jr.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
His up and down play up to that point is probably what led to Sexton being snubbed for that season's Rising Stars Challenge, a roster that also featured the likes of Donovan Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox, Jason Tatum, and even Jarrett Allen. This snubbing seems to motivate him, as he would elevate his level of play following the announcement of these rosters. In the 31 games after they came out, Sexton would average 20.5 points per game, 2.6 rebounds, and 3.2 assists. The best part, his efficiency. During that stretch, he completed 45.8% of his field goals, including 40.3% of his triples. He changed his shot selection as well, as he was taking less long twos and mid-range pull-ups and more triples, something that had been considered a weakness of his dating back to his lone season at Alabama. From the start of the season through January 28th, he was attempting just 2.4 threes per game. From January 29th through the end of the season, a stretch of time spanning 31 games, he more than doubled that and then some by taking 5.7 triples per game. He was truly letting it fly, and his confidence was rewarded with a completion rate of 40.3%. Sexton became the first rookie since Tim Duncan to score at least 23 points in 7 consecutive games. He also joined Larry Bird and Steph Curry as the only rookies in NBA history to play at least 2,000 minutes, average 16 or more points per game, and make 40% of his threes. He was starting to blossom, and although the Cleveland Cavaliers as a whole still stunk very much, his mid-season surge gave many fans hope that an even bigger breakout was on the horizon. Sexton had started to make some of his harshest critics believers in his talent and would complete his rookie season with averages of 16.7 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 3 assists, while completing 43% of his field goal attempts, including 40.2% from three-point distance. And despite being snubbed from the Rising Stars Challenge, he would receive much-deserved recognition in the form of an all-rookie second-team nomination, joining the likes of SGA, Landry Shamet, Mitchell Robinson, and even Kevin Herter. The young bull would also finish 5th in the NBA Rookie of the Year vote. He proved that he could indeed score with the best of them at the NBA level, however ball-dominant he was prone to being. He obviously had much work to do as a facilitator, as his 3 assists per game ranked within the 4th percentile among point guards with an assist percentage of 15.4%. Sexton also ranked in the 69th percentile in usage rate at 25.6%. Now you would think that he would have dished out more helpers with the ball in his hands so much. Defensively, Sexton was a work in progress. The smallest guard could be targeted in the pick and roll and didn't spend much time defending forwards or centers. The bulk of his time, 72.8% of it to be exact, was spent defending guards, which he allowed to shoot for a combined 50.2% from the floor. Coming out of Alabama, Sexton was considered a one-position defender due to his physical limitations according to many scouts. He was still competitive though, and could disrupt things as he would tally up 87 total deflections his rookie season. That was second to only Trae Young for rookies under 6'4" to do so. He would go on to allow 121 points per 100 possessions according to Basketball Reference. Heading into the 2019-20 offseason period, the areas of his game that needed work were pretty well established. Continue to up his three-point volume, step up his defensive effort, and perhaps last but certainly not least, become a better distributor of the basketball. Sexton himself seemed genuinely aware of that, In early October of 2019, just a few weeks prior to the start of the season, he was quoted as saying, "The next step in my progression is making sure I lead the team and just run the team, making sure I keep everybody involved, making sure I keep everyone engaged, and just be that coach out there." In an effort to work on his biggest deficiency as a pro, he filtered over his film in the offseason, pulling up the numerous games where he had low assist numbers. The 3 per game that he doled out during his rookie year ranked 51st out of 87 point guards who played last season. He knew that he was capable. After all, he had 12 games with at least 5 assists in his rookie campaign. He had a 1.31 assist to turnover ratio and was eager to improve upon that. There was also somewhat of a physical transformation as well, as he cut fried foods from his diet. As a result, Sexton looked noticeably more cut. You could tell that he added more muscle mass, especially to his upper body. For a smallish guard in a sport where the average player size continues to elevate, this was almost a must. It would also help with his durability as well as his screen navigation, an area in which Sexton clearly needed work following his rookie campaign. The 2019-20 offseason period also saw the Cavaliers make yet another change at the head coaching position after allowing interim head coach Larry Jue's contract to expire, which led to the two parties mutually agreeing to part ways. Following his departure, the Cavs conducted an extensive search for his replacement that included Jamal Mosley, Alex Jensen, future Cavs coach JB Bickerstaff, more on him later, Ettore Messina, and Wes Unseld Jr., among others, and somehow they settled on John Beilein, who had spent the prior 12 seasons as the head man at Michigan, where he compiled a 278 against 150 record, 2 Final Four appearances, and a pair of Big Ten regular season championships. But he was 66 years old and was coming into a role that would require patience and where the focus would primarily be player development, something he wasn't quite used to. He seemed genuinely excited about the process though, stating at the time, "I love the position the team is in to build and grow, and this was something I felt was the perfect fit for me. With hard work and dedication by all of us, we will grow this team day by day and reinforce a culture of success that sustains itself with strong core values. Cleveland is a great city with amazing fans, and I am really looking forward to calling Cleveland home for years to come." I mean, it made sense considering Beilein was known as a brilliant offensive mind, and the Cavs had one of the worst offenses in basketball in 2018-19, ranking 29th in points per game, as well as 25th in offensive rating. He became just the 5th coach to jump straight from college to the pros since 2010, joining Brad Stevens, Fred Hoiberg, Billy Donovan, and Mike Dunlap. For Collin Sexton, this meant adjusting to yet another coaching style. Things really started to get off on the right foot as a report came out around the time that in his first few months on the job with the Cavaliers, one of his prized pupils was Sexton, who appeared to be developing into a Beilein kid, showing a dedication to the game, tireless work ethic, and continually seeking to get better. The hopes were that Beilein would be able to use his ability to connect with young talent to take the Cavs to the next level. More on that later. It should also be mentioned that that same offseason, the Cavs drafted another point guard. That would be none other than Darius Garland, the 6'1" guard out of Vanderbilt. Garland's arrival meant that Sexton would face another adjustment. He would now be sharing the ball handling duties more than ever. The addition of Garland led to some questioning to whether or not the Cavs planned on moving Sexton to the 2-guard role, a notion that Sexton himself shot down. During the team's annual media day, the sophomore guard shared that he wouldn't be changing positions and would still be Cleveland's point guard.
You were primarily point guard last year. Have you been told you're moving over to shooting guard, and are you comfortable with that?
Nah, I'm not moving anywhere. Just because with Coach, if he brings it up, then or if I bring it up, he plays a 2-guard offense, and we're just gonna get up and down. Pretty much just play together and just play off each other and just play off each other's reads. That's how Coach likes.
Cleveland would also walk away from that draft with the likes of Dylan Windler and Kevin Porter Jr. Sexton would get off to a so-so start during the 2019-20 preseason slate, scoring 20 or more points in 2 out of his 4 appearances, but finishing with more turnovers than assists. His 2 games against the Boston Celtics were a perfect encapsulation of the Collin Sexton experience up to that point. In the first one, Sexton would go just 1 of 8 from the field on his way to just 4 points. He would also turn the basketball over a staggering 7 times. He would follow that up with a 20-point effort, which showcased his talent as a scorer. It was clear that he had made some strides during the offseason, but it is also clear that he still had some work to do as well. Then the regular season came and the young bull would take off, picking up right where he had left off towards the end of his rookie campaign. Over his first 10 games, he would put up averages of 18.7 points, 3.1 rebounds, and 2.3 assists while completing 44.3% of his shots, including 39.6% of his 3-point attempts. He was letting it fly from distance, attempting 4 or more triples in 7 of those first 10 games. He was excelling as a catch-and-shoot option, knocking down a blazing 54.2% of those shots. Sexton's 31-point eruption in a victory over the Julius Randle-led New York Knicks was the highlight of this stretch. He drilled numerous catch-and-shoot treys, flew around like a madman defensively, took care of the ball, not turning it over a single time, and put his head down and attacked the heart of the defense on numerous occasions. His speed in the open court was a sight to see, charging ahead like a raging bull seeing red, outplaying former New York Knick RJ Barrett in the process. Over the following 10, he would pace the team in scoring with 17.4 points per game, but his 3-point volume along with his 3-point percentage would decrease in a major way, dropping to 2.6 attempts on a frigid 19.2%. He would also have one of the worst plus-minus on the team after going from 0.9 to negative 10.7. Of course, this coincided with the Cavs going 1-9 over that stretch, which undoubtedly played a role. He was in a shooting slump for sure, but he wouldn't let it deter him for long as he did his best Dory impression and forgot about it, using a short-term memory and confidence to drag himself out of it. There would be bumps on the road along the way, like his 8-point outing against those pesky Celtics, which saw him go just 4-14 from the floor and failing to score in double digits for the first time all year up to that point. Something that would occur just 3 total times that season in particular. There would also be quick reminders of what made Sexton so damn appealing as a prospect. His 28-point assault on the San Antonio Spurs in an overtime victory was telling, as it indicated that he could help carry his team to victory in a pressurized situation.
Great execution there, Marco, with a great backdoor cut. LaMarcus puts the pass on the money.
Sexton strong to the basket with a jump hook. Sexton for the quick 2 with 15.
Sexton was one of 3 Cavs to finish with 25 points or more, Kevin Love and Jordan Clarkson being the other 2. He was continuing to show that he was unafraid of the moment, something that would become a common theme throughout his Cleveland tenure. Colin would close out the month of December by scoring 20 or more in 5 of the remaining 8 contests, averaging 18.9 points per game over that stretch while helping the Cavaliers go 4-4 in the process. The craziest part about it was how he was getting the job done. The Alabama product would attempt just 13 total triples, making just 1, good for a frozen 7.7%. He would almost exclusively attack the defense inside, as he would go 23 of 46 inside the paint during the stretch. He was also very efficient from the mid-range area, finishing 11 of 18. Now, I'm sure the Cavs would have liked for him to up the 3-point volume, but it was hard to argue with the results. He was still scoring efficiently and effectively. He followed that up with a big-time month of January, in which he put up averages of 22.7 points per game and 2.9 assists, while once again lighting teams up from 3-point range, torching the twine to the tune of 44.6% from 3-point distance. He would attempt 5 or more triples in 9 of his 16 appearances and just seemed to be as confident as he had ever been up to that point. It didn't matter how he was taking them. From the corners, he was a combined 8 of 11.
Sexton's going to launch from right there. Steps back. That's good.
From above the break, he was 25 of 63.
And his confidence level is way up.
Sexton from straight away. Sexton scores.
He would knock down 47.8% of his catch-and-shoot triples during that stretch as well.
Love an offensive rebound. Sexton calling for it. His 3 is through.
Right now for the Cavaliers. Dellavedova. Outside. That's good. A long 3 by Sexton.
It may not have been enough to win many games, as the rebuilding Cavs went 3-13 in the month of January, but it was enough to provide a glimmer of hope to a fan base that better days were ahead. That glimmer of hope was still shrouded in some darkness though, as the team would experience an unexpected level of tension off the court when head coach John Beilein made racially insensitive comments while addressing the team during a film session in early January. In that now infamous film session, Beilein was quoted as telling the team that they were no longer playing like a bunch of thugs. He would later reach out to players individually and insist instead he meant to use the word slugs. Apparently, players left the room initially stunned and were increasingly disturbed as they dispersed out of the meeting. Following that disastrous event, Beilein tried to explain it away by providing the following rationale. Quote, "I didn't realize that I had said the word thugs, but my staff told me later I did, and so I must have said it. I meant to say slugs, as in slow moving. We weren't playing hard before, and now we were playing harder. I meant it as a compliment. That's what I was trying to say. I've already talked to 8 of my players tonight, and they are telling me they understand." This was in poor taste and would only add to the growing disconnect between Beeline and the roster. But despite this disheartening lowlight in the season, Sexton would continue to thrive. Side note, it should also be noted that around the same time, the team acquired former All-Star big man Andre Drummond for scraps in what essentially was a salary dumping move by the Detroit Pistons. Cleveland would receive Drummond in exchange for John Henson, Brandon Knight, and a second-round pick. As the All-Star break approached, Sexton prepared for yet another rising star snub, and it looked that way initially as he wasn't selected by NBA assistants in the initial 10-man group for the USA side. But a string of injuries surfaced and he found himself as a replacement option for that of Tyler Herro. He deserved it and showed why, putting up 21 points and wowing fans with his signature blend of speed and athleticism.
Last ever loss, we definitely pay our respects to them. Kobe paved the way.
Outscored him by 20 in the third quarter.
All right. Here we go.
He's going to dunk that.
Oh, okay.
All the way in. Collin Sexton.
Young bull.
Collin Sexton.
You got to shoot
this U.S. squad.
You got to shoot this.
The Cavaliers. Step back
shoot
three
this.
on the way. You got to shoot this. Don't you need to call timeout over there?
And then a few bombshells dropped during the break as Cleveland sent John Beilein packing and announced that associate head coach Davey Bickerstaff was promoted to the role of interim head coach. A move that would give the team a fresh start and a new voice on the sidelines. Sexton used this as well as his performance during the Rising Stars game as a springboard that would kick off a major production spike in the short second half of the season. In the 11 games he appeared in post All-Star, the Marietta, Georgia native will put up averages of 25.5 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 4.2 assists while increasing his shooting splits nearly across the board. He shot a red-hot 52.8% from the floor overall, 43.1% from distance, and 80.3% from the charity stripe, all of which combined for a true shooting percentage of 63.1%. Sexton had most definitely arrived. He became just the third Cavalier to average at least 20 points per game before turning 22 years old. The problem was, his promising sophomore season would be cut short due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which would result in a 19-46 record for the Cavaliers. They would not be invited to participate in the bubble that was to take place at ESPN's Wide World of Sports complex. There was another silver lining though. The team would go 5-6 under Bickerstaff and look to be gelling to close out the season. And even though the pandemic changed the way that the NBA had to operate, it didn't stop the team from moving forward in their rebuilding efforts.